You know the fastest way to solve inflation? Price controls. Now, most people don't know what price controls are, but the this is an old kind of depression era trick the government used to use in order to keep down prices. It was used as recently as the early 1970s by the Nixon administration to help control some of the spike in inflation from leaving the gold standard in the Bretton Woods system. Um, the price controls are a very controversial thing because price controls really limit corporate profit. Now, what people don't remember is there was a lot of things that the government used to control the price of. Taxi fares, airline tickets, most famously, were actually you didn't have deregulation of airline ticket prices till 1983, I believe. Trucking used to be deregulated. Carter deregulated that in '78. They were all of these things that were useful, kind of useful to society, where there were price controls. During World War II, you had a freezing of prices and wages for the duration of the war. In fact, once the war ended and all the price controls came off, you had terrible inflation at the end of the 1940s. Really bad, really nasty inflation. That was kind of quite crazy and quite insane. And so one of the things the government could really do is just do price controls. Now, this mostly is for the people who say, yeah, inflation, but also corporate greed. And they're not wrong. I think it's honestly time to bring back some price controls, especially on what I would call survival goods, food, especially food basics. You know, different things like that. I would say it's time to bring back some price controls. Not that companies shouldn't make money, they can just make less money, which I always say be happy with your 5 to 8% a year and be okay. And that was how the airlines ran for decades. They literally could tell you how much money they were going to make because all the ticket prices were the same. Everybody had to do the same ticket prices. So it really became about your level of service, your destinations. That's how they competed. It wasn't on price, it was on how nice it could be, how pleasant it was, how many routes they served, all that sort of thing. And other stuff that they could add on, vacations and things like that. So that was, yeah, I mean, there's a lot that could be done within that, but especially for survival goods, it would be good to, I think, look at the possibility of having the Department of Commerce do some price controls in order to help tamp down inflation and just reduce corporate greed. And that's something I think you could look at throughout the system of being like, where is where is this gouging going from? And if I were the here, if I were Kamala Harris running for president right now, I would come out and say that to be like, look, we need to start looking at what these things are, where the price gouging is going on, and put a stop to that. Because in the early 20th century, this was a huge problem. And the only reason they kind of were able to really get serious about price controls was because of the Depression. And because prices were going all over the place. Now, all people would say the free market argument would be you don't need price controls. The market will set the price control. If something gets too high, people won't pay it. New competition will enter the market. All this type of thing. And there's a lot of writers and thinkers in the 20th century who are free marketers who thought price controls were just the most tyrannical, terrible thing. And the reality is that has the exact opposite has happened, especially in things like food. You've had major corporate consolidation. Our whole food supply is controlled by 4 companies. You can buy seeds from 3 companies. I mean, there's been so much consolidation. You end up with these monopolies and oligopolies that don't really allow new competition to come into play. And when people need to eat, when people need food, no one has time to try to figure out a cheaper option, find a lower price, wait for new competition to come in. People are hungry today. And and if they don't get food within 3 days, that's a very fast way to start a revolution. So when it comes to food, certain toiletries, things like that, there should be price controls. We need to keep prices reasonable no matter what happens in the greater economy. Now, if your iPhone spikes in price, whatever. If cars spike in price, that's fine. Price of gas goes up and down. There's other ways to control that. But for basic necessity foodstuffs, price controls would be the way to control inflation, and it would help people quite simply survive and maybe one day thrive.